As this muggy pattern continues, Brian Leonard with your on-point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. No, number one.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
So Baker Mayfield is not the incumbent starter now in Charlotte. Plus, he's not going to do any more progressive commercials at home. God, what a horrible day in Welcome in, folks. Another Tuesday edition of Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Chris Bergen here in Florence. Pat Daniel holding things down in Columbia. And, of course, Matt Smith with us for another night here on the program down in Georgetown, where it may be presently raining. It has been raining on the coast much of the afternoon. Hope you've had a terrific day. And you need to be a part of the program tonight. We'd love to hear from you on the Sports Talk South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number at 888-898-2525, 888-898-2525. Got a terrific show planned for you here this evening as we'll talk a little NASCAR. And there is some big news out of NASCAR today. As a matter of fact, changing of the guards, if you will, as Tyler Reddick is going to be moving. And we'll get Gary Tharp's take on that coming up just after 7:30. His reflection on Chase Elliott winning his first ever race in Atlanta over the weekend. And now as we get ever closer to the start of the playoffs, which are now less than 2 months out in Darlington, get KT's take on all of that coming up just after 7:30. Also on the program tonight, we will hear from Baker Mayfield. I'm not kidding. Evidently, he is no longer going to be doing the at-home Progressive insurance commercials. I guess Bank of America is not the stadium he needed to set up shop in, so he's not going to be there, but we will hear from him. He met with the media today to chat about joining the Carolina Panthers. I can't believe it's an open competition for the starting quarterback position. And I get it, they didn't spend much to get Baker Mayfield, but nonetheless, is he not any better than Sam Darnold? If not, why in the world do you move for him and not try and get somebody else? But we'll hear from Baker Mayfield on the program. Plus, a really, really interesting guest, I think, just after 6:30, well-known media personality, celebrity in the ACC, and certainly around this area. He used to host a highly popular radio show, The Pac-Man Show. Mark Packer is going to join us right after 6:30. Here this evening, and we're going to talk plenty about what Clemson, as a Clemson alum, I think Mark Packer can shed some light on that, what they should do, what the ACC is going to do, and is Nick Saban right that conference expansion is going to kill college football? We'll get into all of that here on the program here this evening. I'd love to hear from you, though, anything that you want to chime in on, plus you can comment on Tiger Woods' comments a bit earlier today. He, of course, sort of staying on the corporate side of the coin, saying that the LIV is bad and PGA Tour is good, as you might imagine. So we've got plenty to digest and dig into over the next couple of hours as we take you up until 8 o'clock. As we welcome in our co-host here this evening, we'll say hello to Matt Smith over in Georgetown here tonight. Smitty, how's your day been?
My day has been great, although I am shaken to my core to learn that Baker Mayfield is not going to do those progressive commercials anymore and use Bank of America as the backdrop. That would have been cake, man. It's so easy to do it from there. There's so many, so many coffee shops for the production crew to hang out in, while the shooting was dragging on. So that's a shame. But I'm with you. After what we have seen from Sam Darnold in his career, And that's really no slight on Sam Darnold. I think you just have to say at this point where the Panthers are as an organization. Let's take Baker Mayfield's past transgressions. Maybe you don't like Baker Mayfield as a person. That's possible. But the ceiling is higher, right? The idea that I've got is you bring in a Baker Mayfield because you think you might catch lightning in a bottle. That if he changes scenery, that all the talent that he has can come to the fore and he can elevate that franchise in a way that, to be honest, Sam Darnold just is not capable of. He's just he is a he's kind of your steady third baseman, right? I mean, he's just there. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to go 25 of 35 for 230 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And if you can win,
at least
run
one
the
pick.
At least one pick. And if you can run the football and play defense, you can win like that. That's perfectly fine. But I think the idea to bring Baker Mayfield is maybe this is a guy that can run around and make plays, make highlight plays, elevate your franchise, and all of a sudden ignite, say, you know what, there's some things I did wrong in Cleveland, probably some things I did wrong in Norman, Oklahoma, but I've straightened out, I've grown up, and I want to take this franchise by the horns. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but I think that's got to be the way of thinking for the Panthers, which I'm with you. I'm right there with you. I think he's got to be the game one starter.
Pat, I get wanting to have some competition when they go into fall camp here in a couple of weeks, but good grief. And again, you didn't give away the farm to get Baker Mayfield. As we pointed out last week when the trade came down, you basically got him for a can of magic beans. But nonetheless, you have to bring him in with the thought that he is going to be your starter. You don't bring, to use a collegiate example, you don't bring what's the quarterback? What quarterback comes to mind? I don't know. Maybe the one in Carolina right now with the Gamecocks. You don't bring Spencer Rattler in and then tell him he's got to compete with Luke Doty to be the starting quarterback. I just don't understand why Scott Fitterer would come out and say today that Baker Mayfield is going to compete with a guy who just cannot win at the NFL level in Sam Darnold.
Well, I'm not as quick to put Sam Darnold on the shelf just yet. And maybe I'm crazy here, but I'm a big fantasy guru. Shout out Matthew Berry. Hate to see you leave ESPN. But last year, for instance, and yes, I know Baker Mayfield played a majority of the season with a torn labrum. That is obviously a worthwhile excuse we have to mention. But just in terms of fantasy numbers or statistical numbers last year, Baker Mayfield ranked number 25, Sam Darnold ranked number 28. If you look at their yards for the season, pretty similar. Their rushing ability, pretty similar. That same amount of interceptions. Baker Mayfield threw more touchdowns, absolutely. But I'm not sold on Baker Mayfield. I'm just not. Again, I was never a big fan of his at Oklahoma. I was blown away that he was taken number 1 overall. I don't think he was worthy of being number 1 overall. I am not ready to hand the keys over to him just yet. I don't think either one of these guys is the long-term solution. Personally, as a lifelong Panthers fan, I'm believing more in Matt Corral progressing and becoming the starter in 2023 than I have belief in either of these guys. And now backing up for just a moment to put a little bit of jest into this, y'all were talking about the progressive commercials. Baker Mayfield actually mentioned, and we'll hear this later in the audio, that he thought it was a missed opportunity that they did not do a commercial with him leaving Cleveland and then also with him moving into a new stadium in Charlotte. So that's a missed opportunity there.
Yes, and you could have involved like Penske Trucks to, a moving company. You could have had to get new internet at your new stadium,
sure.
And you had to wait on the guy between 1 and 4, but you said I had a game. So they really could. Yeah, I agree. They missed an opportunity. But Pat, it's like, but you didn't address any of what we were talking about. You might not believe in Baker Mayfield, but don't you agree? He's got a higher ceiling. That's what it's about. Neither one of them's any good. That's not the point. They haven't played well. It's about ceiling. We know what Sam Darnold's ceiling is. We've seen it. This guy is not going to elevate your franchise. But don't you think Baker Mayfield, if you caught lightning in a bottle, on the perfect day, it could happen?
Yes.
That he can play well. I mean, I think that's what the Panthers are looking at. Not that he's necessarily better than Sam Darnold historically in the past. That's not what this is about. This is about getting a guy who could electrify your team. Sam Darnold could not electrify your team if he were hooked up to a Tesla battery. He's white bread. He's a Lego fireman. That's all there is. You know what he is. He's got 8 and 8 written all over him. The idea would be, if you don't want to take a chance and roll the dice and say maybe we can absolutely make something happen, then why in the world would you chase Baker Mayfield and have him in your locker room and put him on the bench? He would cause such problems in your locker room if he doesn't win this job.
Everything you just said is completely accurate, Smitty. And maybe I am just being a hater Panthers fan that just I'm tired of beating my head against the wall for multiple years now trying to solve the Rubik's Cube of quarterback and who's going to lead the Panthers down the field. Remember, they gave up multiple picks last year for Sam Darnold, too. So I don't like the reasoning for him to become the breakaway starter this year just because of what you gave up to bring him in. Like that doesn't compute with me because you did the same thing last year with Sam Darnold. I mean, I think that at this point, I believe in Fitterer. I do not believe in ownership. I just think at this point they're throwing mud against the wall and just hoping something sticks. And they're giving away a lot of future draft picks in the meanwhile. And personally, I would have been perfectly content with Sam Darnold and Corral this season. I'm against the Mayfield trade from the beginning. But yes, you're absolutely correct. He offers a higher ceiling and probably a higher floor as well. So that's fair.
If Christian McCaffrey is healthy all season long, does it matter who's at quarterback? And if he's not healthy, does it matter who's at quarterback? Does the offense still have to depend, as we've seen the last couple of seasons, does that team go as their running back goes, not as most NFL squads go? They don't go by their quarterback. The Panthers over the last couple of years with Christian McCaffrey healthy, they're a contender in the NFC South. With him not healthy, I don't think it matters. I'm not sure if you put Brett Favre in there in his heyday, it would matter a whole lot because if they can't run the football, who does it really matter, Pat, who's at quarterback?
Great point. And no, to an extent, no. The Panthers for years now have been built for the defense to essentially dictate the game.
Yep.
And the defense, again, they bring back a top 5 overall defense. They are loaded with talent all across the field. They have speed all across the field. The defense will be scary this year. It's just, quite frankly, I'll use the comparison with Clemson last year. The defense wasn't the question mark. It was the offense. And that, once again, is the issue in Charlotte. We're seeing a brand new offensive coordinator come in McAdoo. He's had success as a coordinator, didn't have much success as a head coach up in New York. But I guess they're hoping that he'll be able to call some good plays. But it all centers around Christian McCaffrey. The offense completely runs through him and is dictated upon his health. They have skill at the outside positions. They have speed outside. But if McCaffrey goes down, suddenly they can put extra guys on more on the outside, and you kill that element of the offense. And last year, Robbie Anderson had issues with drops. I do not anticipate him having those problems this year. He's a fantastic receiver. Tight end still a question mark. So yes, the offense goes with Christian McCaffrey.
All right, 888-898-2525 if you'd like to hop on board here this evening on the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Did you know that since 2002, more than $572 million in lottery proceeds has been used to fund Palmetto Fellows scholarships for the state's college-bound students? Learn more about the South Carolina Education Lottery's impact at seducationlottery.com/education wins. And playing for fun is a win for education. We will get into plenty of that just after 7 o'clock. We'll hear from Baker Mayfield on the program tonight, Carrie Tharp. Also coming up on the show just after 7:30, but we'll slide out for you a quick timeout. By the way, a quick note, speaking of which, with regards to Baker Mayfield, I'm trying to find the tweet. I did see, though, he has made a deal with Carolina's punter, so he can get his jersey. As a matter of fact, signed a deal with Johnny Hecker to get the number 6 jersey from him. 6 is a special number to me. It was the number I was given as a walk-on, and it symbolizes my story. So says Baker Mayfield. So he will wear jersey number 6. Have no idea what he's given up to get that jersey. So we'll get into that just after 7 o'clock. Plus, as I mentioned, we've got Mark Packer set to join us right after 6:30. Ought to be a really interesting conversation with Pac-Man about what's going on with regards to college expansion and the conferences, and what should the ACC, and maybe more particularly, what should Clemson do? Well, Nick Saban weighed in on conference expansion. We'll get his thoughts and let you know what he had to say on a podcast. Didn't realize that Nick Saban even knew what a podcast was, but he talked today. We'll get some details on that as we roll on, getting moving on a busy Tuesday here on Sports Talk. Why don't you join us here tonight on the Sports Talk Media Network?
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for nearly 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise. Learn more at scfbins.com.
In Irmo, call me, Alex Satterfield, at 803-749-9171.
Summer weather has arrived in South Carolina, and you know what that means. Sweet, tasty South Carolina peaches are hitting shelves near you. Most people tend to think of Georgia as the peach state, but South Carolina is the East Coast's top producing peach state, so we know a thing or two about a great tasting peach. The next time you're in the grocery store or local farmer's market, keep an eye out for those sweet, tasty, certified SC peaches. Discover more about the tastier peach state at scpeach.org.
All right, Tuesday edition of the Sports Talk Media Network, and of course, Sports Talk with Chris, Pat, and Smitty. You can be a part of the program. Love to always hear from you. We'll take your phone calls as the evening moves along at 888-898-2525. Again, 888-898-2525. Mark Packer coming up just after 6:30 here this evening. And also tonight, we'll catch up with Kerry Tharp, president of Darlington Raceway. Believe it or not, just about 2 months out from the start of the playoffs, and news out of NASCAR today that Tyler Reddick is going to be joining 2311 Racing for the 2024 season. We will get KT's take on that, plus Chase Elliott pulling home the checkered flag in his home state of Georgia over the weekend, winning Atlanta. So all of that coming up just after 7:30. But earlier today, and guys, I have to admit, I'm not a big podcast guy. I like what we do on our podcast here on Sports Talk, but I had no idea that Nick Saban knew what a podcast was. I have to admit, I'll give full disclosure here. I had no idea that he actually understood what a podcast was, but he was evidently on something called Always College Football, the podcast, and specifically addressed the new era of college football realignment, which of course started last summer with his own league, the SEC, adding Texas and Oklahoma, and then of course the big announcement a few weeks back that Southern Cal and UCLA would move into the Big Ten. Saban says, though, he believes that a new era is indeed upon us, saying, quote, I think we're going to deal with it in a greater capacity than ever before because I think mega conferences are probably here to stay, he said. Market share, there's a lot of that involved in what we're doing. I guess why we're doing what we're doing, rather. And he went on to say, quote, my biggest concern is competitive balance. And he's onto something here, Smitty. The NFL, which I was involved in for 8 years, every rule that they have is to create competitive balance. If they could have every team go 8-8, so that at the end of every season, every team was playing their last game to get into the playoffs, they would be ecstatic. How much fan interest does that create? How much TV ratings and all of the things that go into all of these things does that create? We don't have any guardrails on what we're doing right now. We have no restrictions on who can do what. Some people are going to be capable of doing certain things, other people not going to be capable. And you can check out that story at cbssports.com. But Smitty, I think he's right. I don't know that there is a sport out there right now, and this, I don't know whether or not this actually plays into conference expansion, but there's no less competitive sport from top to bottom than college football, right? I mean, you've got the haves, and then you've got a lot of have-nots. I mean, every year it's Clemson, it's Alabama, it's Georgia, it's Ohio State. We can all sit here right now, and if I ask you to name the 4 teams that are going to be in the college football playoff come January, I think you could get 3, if not all 4 teams correct. If I then ask you to name, half the NFL field for the playoffs, you'd have no idea. Because the NFL, as Nick Saban has pointed out, has done a terrific job of bringing up competitive balance in a league. And part of that is based on the salary cap and the like and what the NFL is able to do with that regard. But in terms of competitive balance, I don't know that we have that. And I don't know that expansion and turning the SEC into a 16-team league, perhaps into a 20-team league, and the Big Ten into perhaps a 20-team league is going to fix that problem.
No, it certainly won't. It will exacerbate that problem. Now, what you will get is you will get some more parity inside the divisions of the conferences themselves. Adding Oklahoma to the same division as Alabama, that's going to be interesting. But I do ask you, what chance does Mississippi State have now? I mean, if Mississippi State, imagine that, let's say they go on the road and beat Texas and say, okay, well, that was tough, guys. Let's try this again. We got LSU coming in here. All right, LSU has an injury to their quarterback. They beat LSU. They go on the road. They kick 6 field goals and beat Oklahoma in the rain. And then they have to go to Alabama and Auburn and then Ole Miss to finish the season. They have no chance. There is no chance that is happening. And the gap will widen. Vanderbilt is an academic school existing in a professional football league. They have no chance of making true headway over the course of 5 or 6 years. They could catch lightning in a bottle and have one good season. So Nick Saban, while it's funny to hear it come from Nick Saban's mouth, if you want to talk about competitive balance, I mean, I think we all can agree that would be like Jeff Bezos, trying to tutor everybody on, taking it easy. He's spending his money sending people to space. So it's interesting for Nick Saban to say it, but it doesn't mean he's not right. I think he is right. I think, and the teams, now we've got musical chairs, right? And if you are a team that's trying to move up in the world, let's say you're Memphis and you think you can get into one of these power conferences. Let's say you're Cincinnati, who just had, the season of your dreams last year. You go into the Big 12, and what happens? By the time you get to the Big 12, Oklahoma and Texas are on their way out. And now all of a sudden you're like right back into a group of 5 conference, essentially. So I think the gap is widening, and everybody is focused on the gap between the SEC, the Big Ten, and the other power conferences. But look at this. How far now will the Big Ten and SEC be in terms of coverage, in terms of school payout, compared to the MAC, compared to the WAC, compared to the Mountain West, compared to the American Athletic Conference? They are barely operating in the same sphere of the same sport. It's apples and pineapples at this point. And Nick Saban's right, and I don't know how you put this genie back in the bottle, because this is all about money, and no one yet has said no to the money. They've all said yes.
Well, Pat, I don't know how you fix that problem. His comparison to the NFL is spot on, but it's a different world because every team in the NFL is working from the same pie. You're talking about a set of FBS programs, 130 of them, where 60 of them are working from one set of money, and the other 70 are working from an entirely different set of money. And there's no way to spread it so thin that everybody is eating off the same plate.
Yeah, you're right there. And I love one thing in particular Smitty just said, where he talked about regional coverage and how much reach now you have, for instance, in the Big Ten and the SEC. And I can't help but then think I know this isn't exactly what you just asked, but I can't help but then think the SEC now has more coverage than a lot of divisions in the NFL, do they not? I mean,
no doubt.
You have the NFC South, and that's just Tampa, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Carolina. Now, sure, you can find other nationally broadcast games, but in terms of just a particular division, the SEC now covers nearly the entire daggum country, and the Big Ten is the same thing. I mean, you have all the way from New Jersey to Southern California, And so you can turn on the that particular conference network and find teams from all across the country, and that's different from the NFL. But I don't know. I struggle with this because if we were to split up the money evenly, then yes, we'd see more competitive balance. But in the SEC, correct me if I'm wrong, and 30 seconds, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, the money is all split completely evenly, and everybody has nice facilities, but Alabama's still won 8 out of the last 10 championships, so it hasn't helped that much.
That is a great point. And Saturday Down South had a story today about an SEC athletic director that says we're positioned at 16 for a robust future. So what's ahead for conference expansion? We'll explore those possibilities with Mark Packer. He's set to join us next here on Sports Talk.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Cloudy but calm this evening with muggy conditions and a low of 70. Tomorrow, warmer than today with a lot of humidity at a high of 93. There will be more clouds than sun and a 40% chance of afternoon shower activity. Good chance for rain every day the rest of the week with highs in the upper 80s as this muggy pattern continues. Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. Summer's here and it's time to add to your family. It's time to bring home a dog or cat from Columbia Animal Services. For a fee of only $35, get a new family friend and save an animal at the same time. The fee includes spay and neutering, vaccinations, and an exam from the staff's vet. You can adopt, foster, or just make a donation. Call 776-PETS. That's 776-7387. Or find Columbia Animal Services on social media. Look online at petfinder.com to see them. Now is the time. Adopt, foster, donate. Columbia Animal Services.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Twitter says it has sued Elon Musk to force him to complete the $44 billion acquisition he agreed to in April. Musk and Twitter have been bracing for a legal fight since the billionaire said Friday that he was backing off of his April agreement to buy the company. The chair of Twitter's board, Brett Taylor, tweeted Tuesday that the board has filed a lawsuit in the Delaware Court of Chancery to hold Elon Musk accountable to his contractual obligations. The trial court in Delaware frequently handles business disputes among the many corporations, including Twitter, that are incorporated there. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 192 points. The Nasdaq dropped 107. The S&P 500 lower by 35. Oil dropped at 95.84 a barrel. More details at srnnews.com.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Oh, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer? That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts, AARP on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
I'm already a big fan of Medicare Blueprint. Tim and his team saved me several $1,000s. They took a look at my health insurance. They helped me get the best possible plan. But not long ago, I reached out when we had a crisis. A big, bad insurance company out of nowhere just canceled Mom's medicine for her multiple sclerosis. No warning, 30 years, same med, and just like that, gone. Here's the good news. Medicare Blueprint doesn't work for the insurance companies. They work for you. They're local. Imagine me trying to get this fixed, calling some national toll-free number. Outsourced operators never talk to the same person twice. Medicare Blueprint went to work, helped me get Mom's meds back, and how's this? Even less expensively than we were paying before. Incredible customer service and local. What a great formula. Oh, and it cost me nothing for their services. Nothing. Whether you're on Medicare or not, my mom is, I'm not. Medicare Blueprint help both of us. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398. That's 708-7398.
Welcome back to Sports Talk. Matt Smith, Chris Bergen, Pat Daniel with you tonight. Kornblut is off golfing somewhere, and we'll talk golf a little bit later on. Tiger Woods had some comments on the LIV tour. We'll certainly dig into those, but college football expansion is the topic du jour, and for that, we reached out to what I think is going to be a great source for that. Mark Packer is joining us. Just finished up a run on the ACC network with the show Packer and Durham. You've also heard him on SiriusXM and seen him on sports broadcasts in Charlotte and throughout the Carolinas for the last 3 decades. Mark, welcome back to Sports Talk.
Good afternoon. I should say good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing?
We are doing great. Mark, it's good to have you. And really, you are ideal for this, because if we're talking college football expansion and how it might affect the ACC, I mean, just based on what you've been doing all this time, you have been right there in the center of it, and you have watched Clemson come and go as a football power and then come back. And then, of course, living in North Carolina all those years, having to hear all that from those North Carolina and Duke fans every basketball season. So you're perfect for this. So I guess we'd ask, what was your reaction when the Big Ten struck that big blow to land Southern California and UCLA? So you're sitting there in Charlotte watching that, and are you thinking, oh boy, this is seismic. This isn't going to be a small thing. This is going to be a big thing that will reverberate through the ACC and everywhere.
I'm thinking I don't want to watch UCLA play Rutgers in the Big Ten. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking who in the world wants to watch that stinking game? I mean, we got some dudes from Westwood that can't draw flies, and they got to go to Piscataway, New Jersey. That's a conference game. I'm thinking that's like put me to sleep. But no, listen, expansion never goes out of style. It's always on the back burner. We saw it about a year ago when the world shifted, when Texas and Oklahoma said adios to their roots in the Big 12 to eventually join the SEC, and that kind of sent a seismic shift down everybody's spine, and now all of a sudden we get USC and UCLA going to the Big 10. I say it all the time. You want the answer to a question. I don't care if it's sports or anything else. Just follow the money, and you're going to get to the answer. And certainly the case here. I think the thing that surprised me maybe the most is the fact when it happened. I'm not surprised that eventually we're seeing these superpower leagues develop, because I do think eventually, and I've said this now for, 5 or 6 years, that eventually we're going to get about 50 to 60 teams that are going to constitute big boy college football. And it really doesn't matter whether they're ACC, SEC, Big 10, Pac-12, whatever. What we grew up with is long gone. And I think eventually that's what we're going to eventually have is 50 to 60 teams that constitute big boy football, and they'll re-divvy up the regions in which these teams play. We'll have great games, great natural rival games, which will constitute college football.
You mentioned, and I agree, no one yet has said no to the money. Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, South Carolina, Southern Cal, UCLA, everybody so far has said yes to the money. And it really concerns me that if the SEC were to call to gauge Clemson's interest, that the money is so large that they would say yes. And I don't like it culturally, because I love the fact that we're in a battleground state where you've got an ACC team and an SEC team in our state. Can you see an argument being made on the other end, if you're Clemson or North Carolina taking overtures from the Big Ten, is there another side to the money? How do you convince them to stay with the ACC?
Well, I do think the answer is money, and it does work the other way around, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a thing called an exit fee, and if you look up how much it's going to cost for somebody, anybody, whether it be Clemson, Duke, Miami, you fill in the blank with your favorite ACC team, the exit fee is substantial. It's anywhere in the $125 to $150 million range. There's a thing called the grant of rights, which means, hey, if you and I decide, hey, we're taking our ball, we're going to go over here because the Big Ten and the SEC has offered us an opportunity, our grant of media rights stays within the ACC. Now, there are things called attorneys in this day and age of legalese that will sit there and drag this thing through the courts, and God knows what that'll cost. But this is an expensive proposition for anybody that's got the itch to say, hey, listen, even if there were an opportunity and an invite to go to the Big Ten or the SEC, financially, what is the number? What's the nut that you've got to cover? And that is a kind of a multi-million-dollar question. And, I think in the short term, we're going to see everybody hang tight. But I do, and I've said this 100 times if I said it once, I do think everybody, every company has a number. There is a price tag that eventually leads you to say, I do. We're watching it right now in professional golf. Guys like Phil Mickelson said, hey, you know what, I'll take $200 million from the Saudis to go play golf. Yeah, I'm in for that. I mean, that's a dude that's got great tradition, history, and legacy with the PGA Tour, but he had a number. Everybody's got a number. Texas, they're the richest organization in college athletics. And I know A&M fans, if they're listening, will argue, hey, we're number one. But worst case scenario is Texas is number two, but they had a number to go join the SEC. So everybody's got that number, and it may be different for me versus you, whatever the case may be. So I don't think you can discount it, but the flip side to answer your question is there's a number on the other side that says, hey, you just can't pick up and leave. That's going to cost you a bundle, whether we're talking Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Duke, or anybody else. So the grant of rights are legit. The exit fee is legit. And again, based on whatever media reports you really believe in, whether the SEC and the Big Ten are going to put a pause on expansion, I've always thought that expansion, it's always a back burner. Even when it's quiet, there's a back burner with expansion. So I don't think anybody really knows the answer. There's so many moving parts to the ACC. That's why I think next week in Charlotte will be interesting when the commissioner grabs the microphone and kind of gives a State of the Union of where everything is. It'll be fascinating to listen to.
Mark Packer with us here tonight, chatting about the future of college sports and certainly college football here tonight on Sports Talk. And Mark, dovetailing off your comments about stories out here the last 24 or so hours at the SEC, at least one athletics director telling Saturday Down South he feels like they're positioned in a good spot right now with 16 teams for the future. First off, do you buy that? And secondly, going back to your initial point about having 45, 50 teams that just play big boy football, are we going to get to a point where conferences aren't even necessary, that everybody just plays, as you pointed out, for lack of a better term, big boy football, and you schedule whatever you can, and then somehow we'll determine which are the top teams to play for a championship of some sort?
Yeah, I think eventually, whether that be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, all of us that grew up loving SEC football or ACC football or Big Ten, wherever you happen to be from, that day's over. I mean, we're still going to have it in the short term because obviously the Big Ten and the SEC have formed these super leagues, and good for them. But I think eventually we're just going to have in one pot 50 teams. And again, maybe 55, maybe 45, whatever the number happens to be. And then I think there'll be another reorganization of who you play. And I think eventually what you're going to get if you love big boy football are great regular season games. Because, a lot of times in expansion, if you look back in the last 20 to 25 years, we've seen, the ACC raid the Big East. We lose games like Pitt and West Virginia. We've seen Texas and Texas A&M go by the wayside. Oklahoma, Nebraska. I can go through a whole list of great games that all of us as college football fans, we lost with the greed of expansion. And we're going to probably lose that again. But I think we'll eventually come full circle once we get back to the 50 to 60 teams that constitute, quote-unquote, big boy football. And we'll have kind of reorganize and re-regionalize college football from a schedule standpoint. But in the meantime, The SEC will be very comfortable with 16. The Big Ten will be very comfortable with their 16 because they're dealing from a position of strength. I mean, they're generating the most money. Their contracts are lock solid. They're doing a great job in their television negotiations. So, whether the SEC goes from 16 to 20 or stays at 16, and the same thing with the Big Ten, when you're dealing from a position of strength, you can do whatever it is you want to do in the short term. And I think that's exactly what they'll do. They'll just chill out and just see what the folks at Notre Dame decide to do and whether or not somebody's willing to push the envelope with a grant of rights with the ACC. So, grab your popcorn. We'll see how this bad boy plays out. It's going to be great.
Mark, are we going to get to a point where the only reason you have a conference is to play all the other sports? Slide football out of the mix, and then you have basketball and baseball and softball and everything else that the university sponsor. They play in the SEC or the ACC or the Big Ten.
Well, what my concern, I know everybody's talking football, and rightfully so. It's the number one sport in our country. But I am concerned about the quote-unquote Olympic sports and non-revenue sports, if you will. I mean, where are we going? At some point in time, we're going to see a loss of scholarships. And, I've said this 1,000 times. Again, if I've said it once, the object of every student athlete as soon as they lay foot on the college campus is to get a degree. I mean, us idiots in the media, we get paid to give an opinion on who wins and loses and what coach is hot, what's not, who needs to make a change, and who we think is going to win championships. But really the big picture is to educate your kids. And I think we've lost sight of that. I think Dabo's probably pointed that thing out maybe 3 or 4 months ago that, hey, with all this expansion talk, I don't hear anybody talking about education. And that's almost gone by the wayside here. And name, image, and likeness changed everything a year ago, and that became official on July 1st of 2021. And it did change the landscape across the board. But, I am concerned about the future of all of this when it comes to all sports. And it's not just, football and basketball, which are making all the money. And, again, there's a handful of other sports like South Carolina women's basketball, et cetera. And there are some. I mean, there's some baseball programs that are doing well. But big picture, there are so many Olympic sports that I'm really concerned about as far as the future goes across the board in college athletics.
So, Mark, I actually had a different question, but now hearing what you just said, it made me want to ask this instead. Clemson's the defending national champions in men's soccer. Hypothetically, they were to join the SEC. The SEC does not have men's soccer. South Carolina, for instance, is now joining the Sun Belt, previously Conference USA. But being I'm not sure if technically they're a non-revenue sport or at the very least significantly less than a football, no offense to soccer. Do they have any say in what Clemson does? Can the soccer team go to Graham Neff and kind of plead their case, or is that just kind of tossed by the wayside and it's just football is king and what they decide goes?
Well, I mean, let me ask you something. I'll just use your business.
Sure.
If you had a show on the network that wasn't making any money and the boss is sitting there going, hey, we got to figure out a way to make ends meet, the guy that's got a show that's not making any money, I doubt he walks into the boss's office and says, hey, listen, I need free parking and as much barbecue as I can eat during the show. That guy says, get out of here, man. You're lucky you got a job. I mean, so sometimes you got to know when the bug and when you're the windshield. And if you're a non-revenue sport, I don't think that you're going to have a whole lot of say-so by saying, hey, listen, don't take that invitation to go to the SEC or the Big Ten where we're going to generate $100 million. You got to understand the 35 people that show up to watch our boys or girls play a respective sport. That's really what matters here. So, you got to know your position in life. Again, in terms of being in a position of strength, I think that if you're a coach in the quote-unquote non-revenue sport or an Olympic sport, define it however you want, you're kind of hold on for dear life. And it's not like the ACC or the Big 12 or the Pac-12 are going broke. I mean, these are 3 Power 5 leagues, if you will, that are generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. But I'm more concerned, not necessarily with those leagues, but the smaller, the group of 5 and everybody else. I mean, what is going to happen if the big boys take their ball and the rules and expand scholarships in football? What about everybody else? I think you're going to see so many schools look around and go, hey, you know what? Football, we love it. Our folks, our fans love it, but we just can't afford to have a team. Well, I mean, who do we schedule? The big boys are eventually going to take this thing and run, and that day and age of, hey, let's go sign a deal for $1.6 million to go to Death Valley to get beat 63-7, but at least we get a nice check. Those days are going to be over, and we're not going to be seeing those games. So, it is like I said, it is a fascinating time in college athletics, and 100 years from now, they will look back at 2020 during COVID and 21 and 22 with name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal, and this crazy expansion. And you'll say, this is going to be the craziest, wildest times in the history of college athletics. And it's taking place literally as we speak.
Love everything about that answer. This is Mark Packer joining us here on Sports Talk. With your answer right there, I can't help but then ask, so the ACC, the obvious answer is Notre Dame. I think everybody around the country is waiting on Notre Dame to make up their mind of what they're going to do or if they're going to stay where they are. But I can't help but go back a year or so to when the Big 12 added 4 schools, but specifically I'm curious about Central Florida and Cincinnati, because those two seem like they would have made sense for the ACC. If you're the ACC right now and you were looking to expand, how upset are you at the Big 12 or at those schools for now being essentially off the table? Or does that matter?
I don't think it matters. I don't. The courting of Notre Dame is priority one for the ACC and has been. At some point in time, whether it be the end of this conversation, next week, 5 years from now, whatever, Notre Dame's going to have to make a call. Notre Dame's going to have to decide, are we going to be part of Team ESPN or are we going to be part of Team Fox? Or are we just going to pretend that this Team NBC thing is going to be enough for us to survive? Now, they've had chances in the past to take the money and have said no. That independent thing for them is what is all it's about if you're Notre Dame. But I think eventually, they're going to have to make a decision as far as the conference goes. And whether that is, like I said, next week at the ACC meetings, when everybody's together for the kickoff, or whether that's 5 years from now, I just don't think being an independent, there will be a place for it. I don't. I just think eventually we're going to have, like I said, 50 teams, give or take, and you are going to have to be a part of that 50. And what a conference looks like may look completely different than it does today. But Notre Dame does hold some leverage, even though they've not won a national championship since '88. They really haven't won a major bowl game in nearly 30 years, but it's still the brand. People watch, people talk, people like it when they're getting the rear ends kicked. People love it when they're winning a ton. So Notre Dame moves the needle. And from an ACC legal perspective, if the Irish were ever going to join a conference between now and 2036, it would be in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And to me, that would be a game changer for the league. If Jack Swarbrick at Notre Dame said, hey, you know what? You guys have been a good partner. We feel like we've been a good partner. Let's tag team and put this football thing in. But I don't think Notre Dame's in any position right now in terms of we have to make a decision. I think they're just going to kind of wait this thing out a little bit and see. The question is, how patient will the ACC be? They've been very, very patient. They threw them a life raft when COVID hit because Notre Dame football basically was dead in the water since nobody was going to be able to schedule non-conference games. They're not in the conference. The ACC saved them. So we'll see. That partnership's been intriguing. But, I kind of equated to a man and a woman. You could date and date and date. Eventually, he or she wants to get married. And it reaches a point where you say, hey, listen, are we going to do this thing or not? And we'll find out what Notre Dame eventually decides to do at some point in time. My gut tells me that before the end of the decade, my gut tells me Notre Dame will be in a conference in some shape, way, or form.
Mark, we really appreciate all the time you spent with us. I know you've got a dinner date with Ric Flair. I know he's getting back in the ring. I hope you can talk him out of it.
I tell you what, as old as Nate and I are getting right now, the only thing we could be eating right now around dinner is probably something with a straw. That's the way we're kind of it.
Mark, we really appreciate it. And hey, call us back when you're ready to announce your next program. What your next move is. You've got all of South Carolina here waiting.
I suspect I'll give you a little tease. I suspect that you will get the answer to that question next week in Charlotte.
Ooh.
There you go.
I like
that. Oh, okay. I'll be there at ACC Media Days. So
that's just a little bird is chirping in my ear. I think you might find something out next week.
Wonderful. Mark, thank you. We will be in touch, and we're looking forward to that next week.
All right, boys. Y'all be good. We'll talk to you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mark. That's
There it
really
is.
good stuff with him.
Yeah. Mark is always good, and I think it's hard to argue with most of his perspective on college football expansion, including you have to know when you're the bug and you're the windshield. I think we could probably pick out some of the teams right now that are the bug and which of the conferences and the programs are the windshield.
Without a doubt. And I did take offense to him saying that radio shows, should get a parking space and some barbecue. I'm working for less, so I don't see any problem with that.
Yes, he's forgotten what it's like, right?
He
has forgotten what it's like. All right, we'll take a quick break. Still on the agenda tonight, we'll talk Braves. They took a loss last night to Max Scherzer and the Mets, but Robinson Cano went 2 for 3. We'll talk about that. Also, we've got NASCAR with Kerry Tharp coming up. Stay tuned for all that and Tiger Woods' opinion on the LIV Tour. You don't want to miss that. You're listening to the Sports Talk Media Network.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
I'm not like some whoop-de-doo executive chef. I consider myself more of a baker than a chef. I like working with my hands. I like turning regular ingredients into like something spectacular.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has funded over 450,000 life scholarships in our state, giving countless students a chance to answer their calling, just like Aaron. Your passion is our purpose.
If you're looking to stay hydrated this summer, turn toward a southern favorite, sweet South Carolina watermelons. One slice is equivalent to a glass of water and is just as effective as sports drinks for hydration. If you don't believe us, you can ask the Palmetto State's top football teams. The SC Watermelon Association will be serving up slices after summer practice to keep our teams fueled and hydrated. Visit scwatermelon.org for all the details and look for ripe South Carolina watermelons in your hometown.
Tuesday here on the Sports Talk Media Network, Sports Talk this evening. You're certainly welcome to be a part of the program as Mark Packer was, and our thanks to him. Jump on board the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number at 888-898-2525. Happened to pick up my phone, Pat, a couple of days ago when we had the earthquake problem. I guess that's the best way to describe it in Columbia, and touch base with our good friend Alex Satterfield at Farm Bureau Insurance. And we were joking about signing up for earthquake insurance. Alex tells me, though, because of the amount of earthquakes that have hit the Midlands of South Carolina, his phone has been ringing off the wall.
Wow.
So it's not as far-fetched as you might think.
How about that? Yeah, it's been a little nerve-wracking around here, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, at this point, it's almost become a game. Myself and my friends and whomever else wants to play are playing was that an earthquake or the rock quarry? Because I'm not quite sure which it was. Because I live close enough to the river and the quarry where you'll hear them, especially late in the evenings or afternoons. I guess they're filling up the train cars and then driving back across the river. But you hear these giant or loud noises and the ground kind of shakes for a second. And it's hard to tell. But then if it keeps going, it's an earthquake.
Smitty used to sit right on that fault line down in Charleston and Mount Pleasant. How often did you run into an earthquake when you were living in the Low Country?
We didn't, and because if it hits Charleston is, as you know, it's so historic. So at this point, it's just held together by penny nails. I mean, it would all go into the ocean. Talk about insurance. We don't want to talk about it too loudly because Charleston just again was recognized by Travel and Leisure as the #1 city in the United States. So everybody loves to go there and visit. You got to watch out. And, you guys kind of in the Midlands there, earthquake's going to get you. I'm in Georgetown. I know I'll die by the hand of a hurricane. I think we all just enjoy it while we're here.
And evidently over here in the PD, flooding is our biggest issue.
That's right.
The,
You'll drown.
the PD River is going to engulf us all. But to avoid all of that and make sure you are set up for the future, you get in touch with Alex Satterfield, who's actually been under the weather for the last couple of days. So he may not be in the office, but somebody will take your phone call in the Midlands at 803-749-9171. Alex Satterfield and Farm Bureau Insurance, proud sponsors here on the Sports Talk Media Network. All right, coming up on the top of the hour, again, our thanks to Mark Packer, who was just outstanding talking conference expansion. I get the sense from listening to him, he doesn't believe anything's going to happen between now and tomorrow. So, maybe by Friday something might break, but at least not until tomorrow. All right, we'll slide out top of the hour updates and a break. We'll come back second hour of the program. Got plenty to dig into, including Kerry Tharp on NASCAR and a little Baker Mayfield right around the corner here on Sports Talk.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Across the beleaguered city, Valery Ilchenko sits under the shade of trees, working on a crossword puzzle. The 70-year-old widower has difficulty walking, and this daily ritual gets him through the day. Now the governor of Donetsk province wants its 350,000 remaining residents to move to safer places in western Ukraine. But like many other civilians who have come under fire in the nearly 5-month-old war, Ilchenko has no intention of leaving, no matter how close the fighting gets. He tells the AP, "I don't have anywhere to go and don't want to either. What would I do there?" I'm Charles de Ledesma.
House Democrats today had accused former President Trump of orchestrating violence at the January 6th Capitol riot. Bob Agnew reports.
The former president says the claims are false. He took aim at his critics at a political rally on Friday.
Together, we're standing up against some of the most menacing forces, entrenched interests, and vicious opponents our people have ever seen. The way they throw around the word impeachment, the way they go after people that are innocent people, political people, and yet they leave killers on the street to shoot people.
A new Rasmussen report reveals more than half the country does believe cheating in the 2020 election may have tipped the balance in favor of Joe Biden. Bob Agnew reporting.
Stunning images continue to be released from space via the James Webb Space Telescope. The photos show a sparkling landscape of baby stars, a foamy blue and orange view of a dying star, and 5 galaxies in a cosmic dance. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 192 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're considering protecting your retirement with gold or silver, listen up. Mark Davis here. One company I trust for this, Advantage Gold, the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. They are so passionate about teaching people how to own physical gold and silver. They've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because they really educate their clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. Call 800-900-8000, 800-900-8000. Talk to one of their experts. They can send you a free gold kit along with a free copy of the Wall Street Journal national bestseller, The Great Devaluation. Number again, 800-900-8000. Don't wait any longer. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value, all from Advantage Gold. 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Call Advantage Gold today. 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Amazon's Prime Day sales event is underway. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports online shopping has changed since the start of the pandemic.
Amazon has long used their 2-day Prime Day sales event to lure people to its Prime membership. This year, Prime Day could help Amazon boost profitability. After soaring profits from the early days of the pandemic, Amazon now says it has too many workers and too much warehouse space. Preliminary data from the real estate marketplace provider CoStar Group suggests the company is disproportionately shutting down its smaller facilities. Closures are already creating issues. A handful of workers at an Amazon delivery station in New Jersey recently walked off the job to protest transfers to other sites after Amazon decided to shutter their facility. Some analysts say the excess capacity for Amazon, however, is likely to be a short-term problem for the company. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Cloudy but calm this evening with muggy conditions and a low of 70. Tomorrow, warmer than today with a lot of humidity and a high of 93. There will be more clouds than sun and a 40% chance of afternoon shower activity. Good chance for rain every day the rest of the week with highs in the upper 80s as this muggy pattern continues. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. This is The Point. Make thepointradio.com.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Flying along we are on a Tuesday edition of Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Cornblue's still out on vacation for the remainder of the week. You've got Chris, Pat, and Smitty up until Friday evening. And you're welcome to join us as well. We certainly have room for your phone calls on our South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. It's 888-898-2525. Again, 888-898-2525. If you missed the opening hour of the program, spent a good bit of time talking conference expansion, as is the subject du jour here the next couple of weeks, even through media days next week and the week thereafter. Mark Packer was on with us, and Smitty, an outstanding job getting him on board. And I got the sense just listening to him, and I'm not trying to be facetious here, but it sounds like he believes that we're going to settle in for the next little bit unless Notre Dame makes a move. And he firmly believes, and I don't know if this is his ACC love or the like, but he firmly believes if Notre Dame does anything, they will join the ACC full time.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with that. I have a lot more thoughts on this particular topic, but I would agree with with your sentiment and your assessment there that I'm seeing that story a lot of places. You referenced a story earlier from Saturday Down South that they have sources telling them that inside the SEC they want this to settle. They got their Notre Dame, right? Their Notre Dame was Texas.
Yeah,
that's what they wanted in their world. They needed that, and of course Oklahoma, an elite power, so they got everything they wanted. So they want this to settle down, and more is not always better. I'm not so certain, and Pac-Man made the comment about now I got to watch Southern Cal play Rutgers. No, thank you. And I think he's right. Bigger is not always better when it comes to conferences. And I know we don't have much of a listenership in terms up in Chestnut Hill, but I mean, I don't see the value Boston College has brought to the ACC other than Matty Ice playing there. I just don't see how that's. I know they've got the Boston market, but do they? Mm-hmm. They don't make page 6 of the Boston Herald. So I'm not so certain that bigger is always better. I don't know that the Big Ten helped themselves with Maryland. I know Maryland cashes that check, which is good for them, but to me, they're largely irrelevant in football and in the football and basketball landscape, which was anything but true when they were a part of the ACC. So good, you got your money, you made your deal, and that's who you are now. I don't see how that made a difference. Syracuse has gone, to me, largely irrelevant in basketball and football. So all of this bigger is always better, just stack up teams. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, who wants to add Temple? That's the 4th largest TV market in the country in Philadelphia. Don't add Temple. That's a mistake. So I think the SEC, even if the Big Ten added more teams, I could see the SEC standing pat and saying our 16 could be better than your 18 or 20.
Very fair point. And if you missed any of our conversation with Mark Packer or anything else we do here on the program, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. You can listen to all the interviews. They're put up in podcast form a couple of hours after the show, or log on to SportsTalkSC.com, and you can hear the entire show in its entirety up on our website as well. We'll hear from Baker Mayfield in just a couple of moments. He met with the media in Charlotte today to chat about taking over, presumably for the Panthers, and also no longer doing those really, really cool at-home Progressive insurance commercials. But before we get to that, quick update on our weekly poll question. And guys, both of you can weigh in here. Of course, SEC media members will gather in Atlanta next week, and that will start with media days, and then it will wrap up with voting in the preseason poll. We assume Georgia, as the defending national champion, will be picked to win the SEC East. I don't think that's a grand assumption. That'll be the case. Where would you, however, vote the Gamecocks to finish in 2022? Second, third, fourth, or fifth, sixth, or seventh? The latter three being all grouped together as one opportunity. Pat, we'll start with you. Where would they be voted, do you believe, by the media next week?
Chris, I do apologize here. I was building the commercials here. I only heard the tail end of that. Were you asking where I think they will end up in the SEC football this year?
Our poll question. The media will vote next week for the SEC East and West divisions, and then ultimately the champion as well. Given that Georgia will probably be the number one selection in the East, where do you think the Gamecocks, not where you believe, but where do you believe the media will vote the Gamecocks to finish in 2022?
For me, I'm debating between fourth or fifth in the SEC East. I think I'm gonna go fourth, and I'm basing that more off of their defense. I'm debating the struggle I have there is between they and Kentucky, which one I think will be 4 and which one will be 5. I don't see. I'm looking at last year. You had South Carolina finished 5th. You had Florida and Vanderbilt behind them. I think that Florida will be better than they were last year, so that's one person ahead. Missouri, though, I think South Carolina will be better than. But I still just find them behind. And I think a lot of the media pundits will agree that they are behind Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida for sure. And then the Gamecocks and Kentucky are a toss-up. But I'll give the Gamecocks the edge, and I think they will as well based upon their defense.
All right, Smitty, second, third, fourth, or at the bottom of the league?
I do think I'm going to guess fourth. So I would go with the 2, 3, 4. But I'll say this. To me, it's a firm fourth because not only do you have Georgia in front, Gamecock fans are not going to like this, but let's not forget, Tennessee ran circles around the Gamecocks last season.
Yep,
they need to find an answer because the Volunteers are on the schedule every single season, and they better come in better prepared next time than they did last year on Rocky Top. That was an embarrassment. That defense was not prepped for that. Up-tempo offense of Josh Heupel, and the Volunteers did work on the Gamecocks. They've got a long way to go to catch Tennessee, and they're recruiting at a high level too. So if they get some, they get some firepower in there to go along with that game plan. So that's a concern for me for South Carolina. Georgia's obviously a concern, and I know we talk about it almost every season. South Carolina should finish ahead of Kentucky, but recently they haven't. They haven't really been doing that since Muschamp took the job. So Shane Beamer has, to me, the dragon he has to slay. He got the Gamecock fans on his side last year. That was Dragon 1. Dragon 2, be better than Kentucky.
And that's not going to be easy because I think Kentucky is a very, very solid team, and certainly Georgia. So there are two teams, and I think you're right about Tennessee. I've been impressed with the job Josh Heupel has done, and they are recruiting, as you pointed out. They just landed 2 extremely good defensive ends. If they can carry them through to a sunny day, they may have their set up on the outside, for the next several seasons. So that's 3 or 4 teams right there in front of them. So I don't know. And the biggest question mark for the Gamecocks is the same question mark that Clemson has, with the exception that the Tigers know how good they're going to be on defense. But how good is the quarterback play going to be? What can Spencer Rattler bring to this team? And can he elevate them from where the majority of our listeners, and both you and Pat each said, is 4th in the division, 40% right now. Our votes in through about 250 votes so far. And you can vote all the way through Friday up on our Twitter page at SportsTalkSC. And I don't know that I can argue with anybody. I think 4th or 5th, judging by what we know, is a fair assessment. Now, going into the bowl game last year. Had anybody said that South Carolina would run circles around North Carolina offensively and be as creative as they were, I'm not sure anyone would have believed that. So the grand unknown is, what is Spencer Rattler and that offense going to look like this upcoming fall?
Yeah, but I would say this. I'll give you the glass half full argument, and it is this. Spencer Rattler has the arm talent where if the Gamecocks are in a shootout against a Tennessee or against a Mizzou this upcoming season, now they've got somebody on their side. They've got the fastest gun in the West to go in to that shootout as well. And previously, that was not the kind of game they wanted to get into. It's not where they were yet as a program. But now with Spencer Rattler, and your point is fair, how will he mesh with this offense, with the scheme, and with the rest of that talent? We don't know the answer to that, but we do know this. We know when Spencer Rattler is at his best and playing in a rhythm, he's one of the country's best. South Carolina needed that, and that means they go into every ball game. Last year, I don't think they were there if they had to score 40. You got to score 40, you're sunk. I think this year, if South Carolina's got to score 40 points to win a ball game, they might do it.
Gamecocks, by the way, announcing their media participants on the players' side. Obviously, Shane Beamer will be there as head coach next week at SEC Media Days, but they're also going to take Javon Gwynn, offensive lineman, DeCarrion Joyner, wide receiver / quarterback, and also Zach Pickens, defensive lineman, 3 seniors. But, Smitty, I get that. You want to take your seniors and reward them, but there is not a soul not covering the Gamecocks in terms of the overall SEC media that wants to hear from anybody but Spencer Rattler. I am a little surprised that USC didn't go that route and at least take him to allow him to visit with the SEC media for the first time before preseason camp begins.
You know what's interesting? How different would this go every season if they allowed the media to vote on which players they wanted to have brought, not the coaches choose?
Oh, I think it'd be great. I would love for us to be able to select the players that we'd like to hear from. Well, heck, I'm not even sure the media should be the ones. How about have a fan vote? The coaches can bring 2, and then the fans vote for one more. Only, and I don't know how you could limit this so rival fans would not get a vote. But I can't imagine Gamecock fans would not want to hear from Spencer Rattler next week. Right?
No, you're right about this. But yes, you're right. Usually they go, well, who worked hardest in the weight room this year? Okay, he's going to media days. And you know what? Maybe we should, I hear your argument, but maybe we should, this is one of the kind of the innocent parts of college football that we should embrace. Often the coaches bring, like you said, a senior leader, a captain of the team. Maybe that is just a little bit of innocence we're holding on to in college football. Maybe we should embrace that before it's all gone.
All right, Kerry Tharp set to join us just after the bottom of the hour for his weekly visit. We'll talk some NASCAR racing. Big news out of NASCAR today. Tyler Reddick will be transitioning over to 2311 Racing starting in 2024. We'll get KT's take on that, plus the Atlanta weekend with Chase Elliott winning for the first time in Atlanta. Get some recruiting. Not a lot on the docket, believe it or not, for recruiting. We'll do that in just a little bit. But earlier today over in Charlotte, the not incumbent starter that we thought maybe, but he's going to have to battle for his starting job with Sam Darnold. That'd be Baker Mayfield. He sat down to visit with the media up in Charlotte. And here's a little bit of what he had to say, including thanking everybody for welcoming him to Charlotte and visiting with the Panthers. Here's what Mayfield had to say.
No, I'm extremely excited for this new start in Charlotte. Obviously, I think it's kind of known now, some familiar faces there, some people that I know, and a lot more to meet. And it's just an exciting time for myself and my family and just this new chapter. No animosity towards Cleveland. It's a good football town that, gave me the first 4 years of my career, and thankful for those, trials and tribulations, all the challenges, a lot to learn from and look back on and reflect, but just really focused on right now and being a Carolina Panther and, pumped up to do so.
That said, how much are you looking forward to that week 1?
Anytime you get to put the pads on, for the first time, it's live fire. It's always a great time. Obviously, it's going to be a special one. It's going to be a home game and playing against a former team. A similar situation of what I've gone through in the past when transferring from college to college. So got to handle it the best way possible. And, my job is to put our team in the best position to win. And however I can help do that, that's what I'm going to do.
Welcome, Baker. Josh Graham, WSJS. Given where Cleveland was when you arrived there and really the heights that you achieved not even a couple of years ago, how surprised are you about the way this offseason shook out?
I think, that's why it was surprising for everybody. Pretty unexpected, but, if I'm focused on the past, then I'm not doing my job and, being a Carolina Panther now. So like I said, I'm grateful for my time there. Shocked. I'd say it was, pretty much the only way to describe it, but you roll with the punches and you got to move forward. This is a test of adversity and how I'm going to handle it and how I can move forward and be the best teammate possible with our new home. And I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm sure you hear what people say publicly, even if you try to drown it out. Do you feel you get enough credit for what you did with Cleveland in that playoff run a couple of years back?
You know what? Cleveland's a special place, and there's teammates and friendships and bonds that we all contributed to that special run and to help turn that around. There's guys that lifelong friendships that I'll have that are very special to me, near and dear to Emily and I, that we'll never forget about. But I'm never a me guy. I'm a team first win guy, and we had a good time there. And I'm looking forward to being able to contribute with Carolina now.
Hey Baker, welcome to Charlotte, man.
Thank you.
Here with Fox Charlotte, Queen City News, home of your Carolina Panthers. What kind of went into you taking that $3.5 million pay cut? What was that conversation like? Was that difficult? Was that on the table from the start? You kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, for me, that process was definitely interesting. I don't think there was any manual for it. You've seen guys give up money and part ways, but it's not very often that it's a guaranteed contract that it happens with. And, for me, it was about the next steps forward and finding a new place, somewhere that wanted me, somewhere that, that I would be able to go in and compete and have a fresh start somewhere. So that's where that all came from. Not a very easy past couple of months in terms of negotiating and trying to come down to that number. It wasn't the original number, but I let the people that handle that stuff for a living take care of that. And I was just working on, becoming more healthy, just working out and grinding and doing all those things that I can control and letting the people that that's their forte to do so with that.
And then real quick, Sam reached out to you. What was that conversation like? And were you shocked that he got your number before you got his?
No, I mean, Sam and I, we've known each other for a few years now. Great guy, and just, welcomed me in, had tips where to start looking for houses and all that. Just, no, Sam's a great guy, and looking forward to being in that locker room and that quarterback room with him and competing and challenging each other. And it's going to be special. I think we're going to help each other out quite a bit. And no, not shocked at all. That's just who he is. Great guy. You can write whatever story you want about him, but he's a good guy that wants to help his team win and loves football.
All right, Baker Mayfield winning the press conference as they all do. Now he's got to win that job on the field up in Charlotte. Presumably the starting quarterback for the Panthers, but Carolina saying today that they will have a quarterback competition between he and Sam Darnold before that trophy, if you will, is handed out in the middle of September. All right, quick time out. When we come back here on Sports Talk, we'll break out some recruiting. Got a couple of nuggets for you, including the Gamecocks getting a baseball transfer in the transfer portal. And this time it's from Notre Dame. We'll give you some details on that. Plus, Gary Tharp set to join us just after 7:30, and some comments from Tiger Woods about the Live Tour. As you might imagine, not real impressed with it so far. We'll get all of that, plus your phone calls here on Sports Talk. Busy Tuesday night on the Sports Talk Media Network.
If you're looking to stay hydrated this summer, turn toward a southern favorite, sweet South Carolina watermelons. One slice is equivalent to a glass of water and is just as effective as sports drinks for hydration. If you don't believe us, you can ask the Palmetto State's top football teams. The SC Watermelon Association will be serving up slices after summer practice to keep our teams fueled and hydrated. Visit scwatermelon.org for all the details and look for ripe South Carolina watermelons in your hometown.
Hey folks, it's Mike Morgan for Gibson Insurance. Former Gamecock player Bo Mobley and former coach Stuart Lake want you on their team for all your insurance needs. Now, cost-effective solutions is what they're all about for the now and for the long term. They're licensed with every insurance company in the state. They've got offices in Columbia, Greenville, and Sumter. But if you're listening right now, let me direct you to call Bo and Stu today at 803-605-0029. That's 803-605-0029. Let my good friends take great care of you.
Peanuts and baseball, the perfect pair. There's nothing better than enjoying a bag of crunchy, great-tasting in-shell peanuts washed down with your favorite beverage of choice while cheering on your baseball team. This summer, grab a bag or two of delicious protein-packed Virginia Carolina's grown in-shell peanuts. America's favorite snack and America's favorite sport. A match sure to please. This message is brought to you by Virginia Carolina's peanut farmers. To learn more about peanuts, visit the website aboutpeanuts.com. That's right, aboutpeanuts.com. Enjoy a bag of peanuts today.
All right, we bring you the recruiting report even when Corn's not here. We do that every night. Brought to you by our good friends at Seawells. Whether you're planning a special event, it be a wedding reception, birthday party, corporate outing, or awards banquet, make sure you check in with the leaders in catering in the Columbia area since, the early 1900s, 70-plus years. Seawells has been taking care of things on Rosewood Drive, and you can give them a call at 803-771-7385 or email them, SeawellsCateringSC.com. And don't forget about their daily luncheon buffet every day from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. during the weekend. Pat, we actually have the menu back for the remainder of the week. What's happening tomorrow at Seawells?
We do, Chris, and they have been around since 1946 to be exact. So, almost going on 80 years now. Quite impressive feat. And yes, we have the menu. So for tomorrow, Wednesday, July the 13th, Seawells will be bringing you sliced rosemary pork loin in gravy, southern fried chicken, and pulled pork. Thursday is the one that I've really got my eye on. Tomorrow does sound great, though, but a little bit of Thanksgiving this week. Carved turkey with cornbread dressing to go with southern fried chicken, and then fried pork chops, which if you have not had their fried pork chops, they are absolutely outstanding. Then they'll be ending the week with carved roasted sirloin of beef, so a little roast beef Friday, to go along with fried flounder and southern fried chicken. And then don't forget, you've got sides, salads, and dessert.
See, Smitty, here's where Phil and Pats really have the major advantage on Sports Talk, because living in Columbia, they have that opportunity at Seawells every day. As good as their food is, it's still a struggle for you and I to get over there.
Absolutely. So yeah, when I love to get there when I'm in the Midlands. I don't tell Phil. I just go because I don't want the whole, he gets mobbed when he goes in there, and I just don't want the attention. Just like to get in, get out.
That's what happens when you're the mayor of the Midlands, as Cornblood is. But check it out. You won't get mobbed except for a terrific meal over at Seawells. Again, the daily luncheon buffet from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Rosewood Drive. In recruiting, not a whole lot to delve out today. We told you yesterday, because it occurred right before the show, that Dylan Lonergan, USC's top choice for the 2023 quarterback position, announcing his commitment to Alabama. However, though, Shane Beamer did receive on Monday afternoon, not long after Lonergan made his announcement, a phone call that evidently was a good one, and he immediately tweeted out his welcome home commitment alert to fans, saying, quote, "Been on a plane all day, but just got a great," all in capital letters, "phone call when I landed. Let's go," is how Beamer put it in his tweet. As of Monday night, no recruit had gone public with a commitment announcement connected to that tweet. Now, by our account, there are 22 uncommitted prospects offered by the Gamecocks who have included them on their short list of favorites. 3 of them have already set commitment announcement dates for this month, including wide receiver Davian Dozier, who is set to announce tomorrow. Wide receiver Carmelo Taylor set to announce on July the 25th, and also offensive tackle Oluwatosin Babalade on July the 31st. Also yesterday, we mentioned that 2023 right-handed pitcher Drew Titsworth of Frankenmuth, Michigan, who had been committed to Eric Mackich up at Michigan, made the obvious choice to decommit from Michigan and commit to Eric Bakich now at Clemson. He becomes the 7th player who played for Bakich at Michigan or who was committed to him there to join the Tigers. And speaking of baseball commitments, South Carolina got one from a difference-making pitcher from the NCAA transfer portal. Right-hander Roman Kimbrell informed the Gamecocks coaching staff a bit earlier today, according to the Big Spur, that he is transferring into the program, saying, "I am super excited to be heading back to Columbia," telling the Big Spur, "Being there for my senior year makes it feel like I'm sort of heading home. I can't wait to get down there and start working with Coach Kingston and Coach Parker, and I'm excited for what is to come." And he capped that comments off by saying the goal is Omaha. Kimbrell, who is transferring from Notre Dame, becomes the 10th total player from the transfer portal to commit to USC. He's also the 3rd pitcher only to commit, joining Nick Proctor from California and also Ricky Williams from Clemson. Two-way player Chris Veach from Presbyterian could also see time on the mound this summer. Kimbrell is pitching in the Cape Cod League and made his first appearance out of the bullpen for his team over the weekend. And one other basketball note, 6'7" Cohen Carr of Legacy Early College in Greenville, who has a Clemson offer, and is drawing interest from USC, has also been offered by NC State. And that is recruiting here tonight on Sports Talk, presented by our wonderful colleagues and partners over at Seawell's Daily Luncheon Buffet from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. We talk NASCAR racing with Gary Tharp right around the corner here on Sports Talk.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. Cloudy but calm this evening with muggy conditions and a low of 70. Tomorrow, warmer than today with a lot of humidity and a high of 93. There will be more clouds than sun and a 40% chance of afternoon shower activity. Good chance for rain every day the rest of the week with highs in the upper 80s as this muggy pattern continues. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Hi, honey. I am so excited about finally taking our vacation out of the country.
Me too. We've waited 2 years for this.
But we still have plenty to do before we leave for our trip.
You're right. The travel agent said we have to have negative COVID tests.
Lucky for us, we have True Pharmacy. They can take care of all of our COVID needs.
They do travel testing too?
Yes. Isn't it great to know we have such a great pharmacy to take care of us?
True Pharmacy, 2 locations, Charleston Highway in West Columbia and Divine Street in Columbia.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Surveillance footage captured the gunman in the Uvalde school shooting enter the building with an AR-15 style rifle. It later shows officers in body armor milling in the hallway outside the 4th grade classrooms where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed. The video was published Tuesday by the Austin American-Statesman. It shows parts of the nearly 80 minutes that passed between the gunman walking into Robb Elementary through an unlocked door and the time when his death put a stop to America's deadliest shooting in decades. The edited footage was published as Texas lawmakers investigating the massacre are preparing to release findings. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 192 points. The Nasdaq dropped 107. More details at srnnews.com.
If you're an avid shooter or you're new to shooting, Shooter's Choice is your paradise. A firearms specialty store with all types of firearms, ammunition, accessories, AR platform rifles, shotguns, hunting rifles, and much more. Shooter's Choice has the largest and best selection of firearms in the area. Shooter's Choice is the oldest, the most professional firearms dealer in the Midlands. They've served us for more than 30 years. Family owned, they've never let themselves lose that hometown feel. You go into Shooter's Choice, you'll get experts who hunt and shoot. It's not like some big box store. Their staff has decades of experience. You just won't get this anywhere else. From the classics to the newest cutting-edge products anywhere in the firearms world, they buy, sell, and trade firearms. They have an indoor firing range for handguns and hunting rifles. If you don't want to spend the gas money, hop on ShootersChoiceSC.com and shop online 24/7. Whatever you choose, Shooter's Choice will make it easy on you. In West Columbia at 944 Sunset Boulevard or online, ShootersChoiceSC.com. Make it your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Hey, it's Jake Kilmartin with The Melting Pot. Everybody says cheese when you dine at The Melting Pot. We've got the picture-perfect night out for you and the whole family. Cheese, salad, entree, and when you finish with our yin-yang chocolate fondue, you'll have the perfect photo finish. Come and see us. Plan your summer vacation. Call us at 731-8500 or go online to meltingpot.com. We're at 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard. The Melting Pot.
The most dangerous appliance in the house is the clothes dryer. There's no bigger fire hazard than a dryer not working properly. I'm Patrick with Dryer Vent Wizard in Lexington. Is your dryer taking more than one cycle to dry clothes? It's more than cleaning out a lint trap. Dryer Vent Wizard helps with fire prevention, avoiding mold and mildew, saving energy, which saves dollars and extends the life of your dryer and even your clothes. Dryer vents are all we do. Online, it's LexingtonDryerVentWizard.com or call us today, 693-5357. That's 693-5357.
Are you more than $10,000 in debt? Feel like you're on a never-ending treadmill, staying in one place and never getting ahead with those minimum payments? You feel like there's no way out? Get off the endless debt treadmill and start saving money each month. There are programs in place to help you get free of your debt, and you don't have to pay the entire amount you owe. The program at Total Financial Freedom can help you get debt-free in months instead of decades. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and even timeshares. Call now at 800-208-1312 for free information. For over 15 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. They're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, too. Get off the endless cycle without having to declare bankruptcy. You'll have the right to get your debt resolved for a mere fraction of what you owe. Call Total Financial now at 800-208-1312. That's 800-208-1312. 800-208-1312.
Tuesday edition of Sports Talk here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Chris, Pat, and Smitty with you, top of the hour up until 8 o'clock, awaiting the arrival of Kerry Start. We'll talk some NASCAR racing with KT here in just a couple of moments. Quick update on the Major League Baseball scoreboard. We will start with a game everybody, I'm sure, is interested in. They go to the bottom of the first over in Atlanta. It is 0-0 between the Mets and Braves. And Smitty, after last night's dandy of a ball game, Mets winning 4-1. Max Scherzer was asked afterwards how big a deal that was, and he played it up a little bit bigger than I thought. Most of the major league players, one game out of 162, not that big a deal, but I get the sense the Mets, that win last night for them, they felt like that was a big, big win over the Braves, especially on the road.
Yeah, this is what players do, right? Before the game, it's just a game. Tonight means nothing. It's just another ball game. We're going to play them 15 more times. The media likes to play it up. And then after you win 4-1, then it's all high fives and fist bumps. And, boy, that was a big game. That was a statement victory for us. We let the Braves know they're not catching us yet. So that doesn't surprise me. That's a tale as old as time. But I do think the Braves, we talked about this going into the game, you don't want to give anybody a mental edge. And right now, the Braves don't have an answer for Scherzer when he's throwing like that. Nobody really does. If he's going to throw like that, it's lights out. But the point is, you need to have an approach ready for him because you're going to see him in crucial games down the stretch. And, it's fascinating. And I mean, how do you pitch to everybody on each team? And I think if I'm not wrong, Acuna went hitless and probably won't happen again tonight, right? So I think it's going to be back and forth. I actually like the Braves to bounce back tonight behind Strider, who's been throwing so well recently. I actually think the Braves are going to get them tonight and even this series up.
And Fried struggled unusually so. Only gave up 2 runs on 5 hits, but the 5 walks he issued matched a career high. And I noticed in the broadcast last night, they were talking about how patient the approach has been for the Mets. One of the teams that is in the top, I'm not sure where they rank, but towards the top of the National League in terms of walks drawn. And they're a very patient bunch you have to pitch to. And then you get Max Scherzer on the mound, who only gave up 3 hits, one of them being Austin Riley's 24th homer of the season in 7 innings. Tough to beat them if they're on their game like that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's what I'm saying. So, think about it. The Mets are one of the top 2 teams in the National League by record. And they've got their ace on the bump, right? I mean, at least until DeGrom comes back healthy, Max Scherzer is the top of the heap. So you're facing one of the best teams in baseball with perhaps their best arm going, and he's really competitive. So yeah, it's tough to do. But now you turn it around, and the Mets have to think, well, we're on the road facing who could be the rookie of the year this year in the National League, one of the best teams in baseball, and we're at their house. So now tonight, I think it shifts where the Braves have the advantage.
Elsewhere, the Pirates and Marlins are knotted up at a run apiece down in Miami, top of the fourth inning. They are in a rain delay in both New York and in Washington. The Yankees and Reds are scoreless, and they haven't even gotten started. Neither have the Mariners and Nationals. Meantime, middle of the second inning, Blue Jays have an early 2-1 lead on Philadelphia. Bottom of the second inning, Rays and Red Sox are scoreless. Bottom of the second as well. White Sox lead the Guardians 3-0 in Cleveland. I mentioned the Mets and Braves are scoreless. Bottom of the first as Atlanta bats. Coming up shortly, the Brewers take on the Twins. A little bit later on tonight, you've got the Dodgers and the Cardinals. I know Smitty will be keeping a sharp eye on that matchup tonight. Orioles and Cubs. How about the Orioles? I have to give them some credit because I've been harsh on these guys because they've just been so bad for so long. And Smitty, they're still a game below 500 and way off the pace in the American League East, but they also have to deal with a team in the Yankees who may set a record for the most wins in a season. But you got to give the Orioles a little credit here, sitting at 43-44 for a team that has not been good since Cal Ripken retired.
Absolutely. I do. I like that they're plucky. Up until about 3 weeks ago, there was chatter they were actually the Big Ten was going to expand and take them, that the Baltimore Orioles were going to play Big Ten baseball. But no. And you're 100% correct. I like the way they play the game. I give a lot of credit to those teams in the National League East because you look at the money spent by the Yankees and Boston Red Sox. I mean, it's like the GDP of the United Arab Emirates, the amount they spend on their rosters. And yet there are the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Orioles hanging tough. And I like their gritty. I like the fact that they play hard, and they do not back down to the Red Sox or the Yankees when they play. Unfortunately for everybody, if Aaron Judge is going to be healthy, Giancarlo Stanton's going to be healthy, and that pitching staff stays healthy, they're going to run away with that division, and they will be a load in a short series come September.
All right, Tiger Woods has some sharp comments about the guys who have left the PGA Tour for the LIV Tour. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but it's time now to head over to Darlington County. No truth to the rumor, I do believe, that he took his own car battery and hooked it up to the siren at the pool house over in Georgia. As Chase Elliott from Dawsonville gets the win, they played the siren as he wins for the first time ever in Atlanta. And we say hello to the president of Darlington Raceway, Kerry Tharp, who joins us here tonight on Sports Talk. KT, how are you doing? And were you over there in the pool hall in Dawsonville, Georgia, to watch the siren go off with Chase Elliott getting the win?
No, I wasn't, Chris, and thanks for having me. Sorry for the delay, but I would have liked to have been over there. I've never been to Dawsonville, Georgia for the siren, as I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But my goodness gracious, they rang that thing, and everybody was excited, and certainly a big win over there for Chase Elliott, his first win at his home track in Atlanta Motor Speedway, and him and his dad, I'm certainly celebrated after that, being the father-son duo to win at the racetrack like that. But my goodness, what a race, exciting race. And I'd like to have been over there. It would have been exciting, but I saw some of it. I experienced some of it. And it certainly looked like it was a big time over there in Dawsonville, Georgia.
He becomes the first driver this season to reach 3 victories, and he has done so in rapid succession here of late. He's got 5 stage wins. He leads the series in playoff points, and right now Chase looks like the odds-on favorite to win the championship. And KT, we know all of that can change with a couple of races and once the playoffs roll around. But as you sort of size things up with just less than 2 months to go for the playoffs, how big a favorite do you think Chase Elliott is, considering how well he's going right now?
Well, Chris, he's certainly got to be a person you got to look at. I mean, he's in a great equipment over there in the 9 car at Hendrick Motorsports. And he's, like you mentioned, the first 3-time winner this year. That hasn't been easy to do. And so I'd have to say Chase right now is probably going to be somebody that you have to go through to win their championship. And that's rightfully so. I mean, his season so far has been very, very strong. And, he had a little bit of a downturn there at the middle of the year, and then he started getting hot. He's won a couple races here over the last month or so. And that win he had in Atlanta certainly convinced me that he can be somebody to be reckoned with come playoff time. I mean, he was very, very strong. His pit crew was excellent. Alan Gustafson, his crew chief, was calling some great shots. And, yeah, I'd say right now Chase Elliott has to be somebody you better look at when you come to identifying who's going to win the championship.
Now that we're 2 races into the repave and the rework at Atlanta Motor Speedway, can we start looking at that in the same fashion that we view Daytona and Talladega, or is it not quite super speedway level and it should still be viewed as sort of a 1.5 mile type racetrack?
Well, that's a great point, Chris. The 2 races we've seen this year in March and then here last weekend reminded me of Daytona or Talladega
Right.
with the pack drafting and what you saw on the racetrack. And so I kind of think it's kind of become one of the tracks that you could say it's almost like a plate race. I think they run the same motor and the same configuration at Atlanta that they do at Daytona and Talladega. So that tells me that they're kind of treating it as almost like a plate race. It's only 1.5 miles compared to the 2.5 miles at Daytona, and then the 2.7 miles at Talladega. But seriously, it looks like to me it's a plate track, and so I think they're treating it as such with the new configuration, the new asphalt, the new banking, and I think it's a new Atlanta, and I'm really, really excited. I'm really kind of, excited about how they kind of reinvented that racetrack to become a really, really exciting venue for us.
Gary Tharp, president of Darlington Raceway. We're under 2 months out now from the running of the Southern 500, the opening round of the NASCAR playoffs, joining us here tonight. And KT, I think this is, you want to talk about silly season. Normally we don't get it mid-season, but a huge announcement today. Tyler Reddick is going to be joining 2311 Racing starting in 2024. How big a deal do you believe that is, and how viable does that now make Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's team over at 2311?
Well, that kind of came out of nowhere, Chris. I had no idea that was going to happen. Tyler Reddick just won a couple weeks ago at Road America, so he's going to be playoff bound over there at Richard Childress Racing. And, for him to go over to 2311 to the Toyota camp, which means he'll be with Bubba Wallace, Kurt Busch, and that looks like a 3-car team right now. And so that team is not only they're expanding, and they're going to give themselves a year to grow. He'll be over there in 2024. I think Tyler Reddick is really, really a good race car driver. I really like him. I like what he does on the track. I like how he handles himself off the track, and I think that's a great addition to that race team. I think it only makes that team a little stronger and kind of solidifies, Chris, that team is in it for the long run.
It's interesting the way this season has developed with both 2311 and also Trackhouse Racing. These aren't the typical Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs and RCR and those type guys. Are we starting to see, maybe even with Hendrick, as good as they've been, and Joe Gibbs, they're not going away, but are we starting to see maybe a little bit of a changing of the guard in terms of team ownership within NASCAR?
Well, another good point you bring up. I think this is something different that we're seeing. I mean, you look at Trackhouse Racing, first year in their existence. Certainly, they had good equipment when they bought Chip Ganassi's shop over a year ago. But I mean, you got Ross Chastain's won twice. You got Daniel Suarez has won once, and Chastain's up there. If not contending for wins, he's disrupting the field, right? So I think that's pretty exciting, what they're doing over there. And all of a sudden you look at 2311 and you have Bubba Wallace, you have Kurt Busch, and now you're going to add Tyler Reddick to the mix. To me, that tells me that there's a little bit, like you said, a changing of the guard. And you know, I can't wait to see Tyler Reddick in that race team. I mean, he's going to be probably a little bit better equipment maybe than he's in now with Richard Childress Racing. I mean, they're going to be getting equipment from Joe Gibbs over the Toyota camp. And so I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they perform. And you know, like you said, silly season usually doesn't happen until later in the summer, but it's starting to happen now early. And Tyler Reddick going to 2311 is certainly a big deal.
Before we let you go, who do you see bringing home Loudon the Lobster over the weekend up in New Hampshire?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question, Chris. I mean, that's a mile racetrack up there at New Hampshire, and you know, are you going to see a Martin Truex Jr. win? Are you going to see a Joey Logano win? Are you going to see a William Byron? I don't know. I kind of like Martin Truex Jr. maybe to get his first win of the season up there. Something tells me he's due. I think he's performed up there pretty well at the track up there in Loudon, New Hampshire. And so I'd say Martin Truex Jr. is a person that I'll be looking at, but who knows? I mean, we got 13 different winners so far this season, Chris, and right now, if you haven't won a race, you got to be sweating bullets to make sure you're going to get into the playoffs.
You're in big trouble in the playoffs. Start where they should start. Probably should finish as well over at Darlington Raceway for the Cookout Southern 500 coming up over Labor Day weekend. Tickets already available up at darlingtonraceway.com. Kerry Tharp, the president of the Track Too Tough to Tame, with us on this Tuesday here on Sports Talk. KT, as always, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the week, and we'll catch up with you next Tuesday.
Hey, Chris, thanks a lot, man. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. That is Kerry Tharp, president of Darlington Raceway. We'll slide out for our final timeout. Come back, still have time to squeeze in a couple of phone calls if you like. 888-898-2525. That's the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Where did you know that since 2002, more than $572 million in lottery proceeds has been used to fund Palmetto Fellows scholarships for the state's college-bound students? Learn more at sceducationlottery.com. We're back after this here on Sports Talk.
We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR Major. It's always a good time for folks to remember to get those licenses renewed.
Doesn't matter what time of the year, it's always a season in, whether it's fishing or hunting. Make sure to check your licenses, make sure they're up to date. If you need a hunting or fishing license, you may go to www.dnr.sc.gov to purchase your license online or to any local licensed vendor in your local area.
And don't forget to join us for SC Wild from DNR with Major Billy Downer on Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
Score a touchdown with Founders Federal Credit Union. With services like Founders Online and the Founders app, you'll enjoy all the perks of a big bank with local personalized service. Not a member? Joining Founders Federal Credit Union is easy. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership. Relax with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
MJ Ward set to join us tomorrow. This will be interesting. He's going to be live from St. Andrews out of the 150th Open Championship. So I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on Tiger Woods basically running over the Live Tour in his own bus and then backing up and driving back over the top of it again. We'll get into that with MJ tomorrow on the program. Certainly looking forward to his visit on the show. But let's head back to the phones, check in with you tonight before we wrap things up here on Sports Talk. And we say hello to Jersey Shore here in the PD in Florence. Jersey, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Good evening, sir.
Okay, so I finally get home from work at a reasonable hour. It's actually still light out. The sports voice of the PD has the mic and the show all to himself. And my affiliate breaks for Atlanta Braves baseball? What's up with that? What did I do wrong? I mean,
I appreciate that. First off, I did not have it.
I'm serious now. Thank God he put me on hold. Otherwise, I would have missed that Darlington segment. And is he brilliant playing Bruce to introduce Darlington? I love that guy.
Bruce or KT?
KC. Bruce is good too. Look,
No, and I appreciate that, Jersey, but I am not alone. And anytime you lose us, and this is not just for Jersey, it's anybody, you can listen to us live online at SportsTalkSC.com.
well, thank you for that 411 on my 911. That's great. That's just great. Listen, Panther fans, Mayfield is going to stop. I had no idea who said that he was going to have an open competition, but whoever said it had to say that. Belichick didn't say he was giving the ball to Newton when he gave the ball to Jones. Okay? And now listen. This kid is good. He was great in college. He's not a championship pro football player, though. He's going to help them. He's going to help them win a few games. Heck, there are very few championship quarterbacks in pro football that are really champions. I mean, look, Nick Foles, please, come on. Eli Manning was 2 Hail Marys away from losing 2 of them. And his brother Peyton, I mean, who did he beat? The Bears? Oh, come on. And he didn't look that good in Denver. That defense won that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a good move for the Panthers. It's going to bring a lot of excitement.
I hope you're right. I think Panthers fans are starving for somebody to move that team since Jake Delhomme stepped down as the starting quarterback. And even when Cam Newton was there, got him to a Super Bowl, just couldn't push him over the hump. Jersey, good to hear from you, my friend. Thanks for the call.
Have a blessed night.
Yes, sir. All right, before we wrap things up, let's stay on the phone lines. Let's head down to Mount Pleasant, check in with Rodney. Rodney, you're up next here on Sports Talk. Good evening, sir. Thanks for the phone call.
Good evening. Evidently, our previous caller is incognito. He's on vacation. He's normally down here in the low country, so I don't know if I can get a chance to follow him. But just calling in real quick to say congratulations for SC State Bulldogs getting our new women's coach, and supposedly tomorrow we'll be getting our men's. But I haven't had a chance to see any of the video, but I've seen some written comments that he made as far as saying for Bulldog Nation to dream big, and I can't remember the exact words, but he was pretty much saying dream big, and he said I can't remember exactly, but he was pretty much saying dream so big you might be scared to tell anybody what you're dreaming. But I'm born in July, so that's what we do as far as reach for the moon. So hopefully he'll do well. We have a Hall of Famer that just got elected, and he came from being under a Hall of Famer, I think Coach Stringer, I think it is. So I'm definitely gonna dream big.
And Rodney, you're right. South Carolina State, and apologies, we should have spoken more about this. We mentioned it last night, but Eric Martin is a tremendous hire for the Bulldogs there. He was an assistant for Bob Huggins since 06-07 at Kansas State. He played under Huggins at Cincinnati back in the 90s from 91 to 93. And keep in mind, although he and Frank Martin are not related, share a last name, they had that connection as well out at Kansas State. So he'll be a name that's, so they have that connection to a coach that spent quite a long time here in the Midlands. But it looks like you guys have a fantastic coach. Glad to see the Bulldogs giving him an opportunity. And if he's anything like his mentor, Bob Huggins, then you guys are in for an exciting next few years.
Right, as well as the women's coach that I was mentioning as well. I think it's Eatman. He came from being under Coach Vivian Stringer that's up at Rutgers. I think she eventually stepped down due to health, and he was the interim head coach. But he had been under her on 2 occasions. I think he was with her. I had just read it. It was another school. I can't remember, but it was in the Big Ten, I think it was. So he definitely has the pedigree and has reported saying, good recruiters. So main thing is some of the people here in South Carolina have football on the brain, but that expression, I saw it happen last year. When you win, people get excited. But yeah, for that one year, I can actually say we beat Citadel as well as some other teams, and
no
had
doubt.
a chance to be happy.
Rodney, great stuff, my friend. We're about out of time. We appreciate the phone call tonight. All right, and Rodney is done, and that is done for us. As a matter of fact, we've reached out to SC State. Hope to have Eric Martin on the show tomorrow. We will find that out. For Smitty and Pat, guys, enjoyed it. Folks, have the great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Someone will be right with you. The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.